Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another one of the brokenStones business podcasts. Today, joining me is John Moore from Fruition Accountants. Welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good to see you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, John. For those of you who a lot of you out there will probably know John already. He's a very well-known businessman throughout Lichfield and St Coldfield and Tamworth and the Midlands. He's well known as being quite an entrepreneurial spirit when it comes to his business. He's also a very well-known networker as well. Some of you who are in various different network groups and B&I groups will have probably come across John in the past. You definitely put yourself out there, don't you, John?
I try to. I believe very much that if you're visible, you will get noticed. If you're invisible, you don't get noticed, which seems obvious, but a lot of people don't recognise that.
I think a lot of people have traditionally waited for people to come to them, and that's definitely not your.
No, not my style at all.
So what we've done in these previous podcasts, like I say, is talk about the business, talk about John and his background. So maybe a good place to start would be to tell us about Fruition and give us a top line business.
I'll give you a little background. So we are a relatively new brand on the market because we did a management buyout from the HCB group in December. So HCB, as many of you know, are a network of solicitors. And we had a little accountancy part of that. And the time came where we thought we want to go on our own. The relationship, it was just at the right time, I guess, to say where we wanted to move in a different direction. So myself and my business partner, Michelle, we actually historically worked together at RSM Tennant back over about 10 years ago, and I actually was delighted to make her redundant back then. And the leaving speech from her was, one day we will own a practice together, and that has come to fruition, which is where the name comes from. So it's always good to have a story behind the brand, and that's our story. So so we've been here in Lichfield since the 1st of December. And we also have another office in Stratford upon Avon. So I like to think we've kind of got both sides of Birmingham, and possibly, slightly posher sides in both cases, which is great for the kind of clients that we work with and the people that we want to work with. So yeah, background, I'm a qualified ACCA going back a long while. I look a lot younger than I am. I'm sure you appreciate that I'm 35, but I joke, by the way. It's been a journey, and over the years I've been involved with large practices like RSM, all the way down to some very one-man band practices, and now the opportunities come to do something on our own, and it's a really exciting time. Because there is so much opportunity out there in so many different areas. So yeah, that's very little bit about my background and where I've got to. I suppose personally, obviously I've got a very strong West Midlands accent. He jokes again. I originate from Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, and I've been up in the West Midlands now for 20 years this year. 20 years come September, actually. So it's nearly half my life I've spent here, which is quite exciting, and I love it. Not that my mum still lives down south, so I do go back and visit, but I don't think I'd ever move back away. But this came up in 2001, start of a new adventure, and it's been great every moment all the way through. But there we go, a little bit from me.
It's a great story, and it's always nice to hear from people who have that entrepreneurial spirit, people who've worked in bigger businesses and smaller businesses, people who've then gone and done it themselves as well. I mean, Fruition, you must be coming up to almost a year. Is that brand now? You must be close.
No, it's only 6 months actually, but it feels like it sometimes. It does feel like it, but yes, and to be honest, it's been a challenging 6 months, because you don't realise until you do it yourself. And I'm sure there are some entrepreneurs that are listening in, and I would actually say to them quite early on, you need to make sure you've got the right people behind you, and that is in every single part of of the transition into a new business, because I think a lot of people just say, oh yes, I'll go and set up something on my own and all will be well in the world, and then a few weeks in they suddenly realize there's a little bit more to it than that. Usually you've got to spend a lot of money, which is usually the one that catches most people out. But it's simple. The two main areas, I think, certainly in a business like an accountancy practice that we are people and technology, and those two things are very key to our business, because without them we can't work ultimately. As a networker, I do get out and about, most definitely, as Jonathan's already indicated. I do like to, be seen out and about, and I do love the face-to-face meetings. I have to say, there's only so much Zoom that you can do. Before it just drives you absolutely bonkers. So it's been nice the last few weeks to get out and about. Funnily enough, I've just come back for a meeting in Stoke this morning, and it's just great to see somebody in face to face. But yes, the two key things are very much people, and the people I will put first. The team that we've got a team of 26 across the two offices, of which many of them are obviously still working from home. We have a right mixed bag. I might talk about that a little bit more in a bit, but yeah, it's good fun. And the second part is the technology side, which is paramount for us to work on a daily basis. If that doesn't work, we're stuffed, so to speak.
In terms of your industry, I mean, obviously, I don't want to say the word overcrowded, but there are obviously a good number of accountancy practices out there. I don't know that field particularly well. We have clients that we work with, but in terms of, you alluded to the fact that people are obviously, very, very important and powerful within the business, because I presume as an organization, people tend to work with you for good amounts of time, I guess, and are very loyal customers and will stick with the people. But how do you put yourself on a different bracket to other organizations in Lichfield and around, for instance? Do you have some company values, or is it a marketing driven effort? How do you go about that sort of thing?
I generally believe that people buy into people. And I've always believed that for my whole life. Where we position ourselves, where I position myself, and where the firm positions ourselves, is we talk about ourselves as being entrepreneurial accountants, and we don't shy behind that. A lot of people think the word entrepreneurial is kind of overused, maybe, and not strictly true. But from our point of view, it really is. It's very meaningful. So if I go to see somebody for the first time, and this happens, and again, I don't want to blow my own trumpet too much, but it will so often happen that I'll go and speak to somebody just as a general chat, and kind of an hour later they come away and they say, I've learned more from you than my accountant I've had for 20 years. And I say, well, hang on a minute. Well, why is that? And they say, oh, I might come and work with you. So I said, I'm not bothered whether you come to work with us or not. What I am bothered about is the fact that you're getting good entrepreneurial advice about your particular situation. And that is where I think a lot of, let's say, other professionals maybe get it wrong. They look at the transaction, they don't look at the bigger picture. And I spend a lot of time talking to people and finding out about them. I often say, I know more than your wife, or I know more than your husband, because the questions that I will actually ask are very, very personal. And I get over that in a joking fashion. I say, I'm really sorry, I just need to ask you all these things. And I explain that the reason I need to ask you is if you're going to get some sound advice that is going to take you to wherever you want to be, I need to know everything about you. It's all confidential. I'm not going to share it, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes you'll find out that a relationship, maybe a couple are perhaps a little bit on the ropes. I don't want to then advise them that they should be splitting their shares between the two of them and going their own way. I need to know that, because that advice that I will give will be totally different. Guy comes to me, and a guy came to me this week actually, and he shows me his watches. Now, many of you know that I've got watches that they're rather valuable at the moment if you've got some decent watches. And he showed me one particular watch, and I'm not kidding you, it's a limited edition. It's worth about £300,000 on its own. And you think to yourself, right, I wouldn't have known about that unless I had this relationship with you. And it's about gaining the trust of the clients and the people that we work with. And it's about actually recognizing that now I know that bit of information, I can advise in the best possible way. So I could go on for hours about this. I'm passionate about it, but you may be getting that impression already. It's really important to understand your client, and I think that's our USP, Jonathan. If I'm honest,
no, that's good. That's great. You've obviously got some strong values. It's interesting hearing you say that, because as an IT business, technology traditionally has been associated with geekiness and talking about RAM and all that sort of stuff in terms of the computers. And what we try and do as an IT business is take it beyond the tech, if that makes sense, and look at the outcomes, the desired outcomes that the client wants. And most of these guys are looking for happier staff, increased profitability, financial clarity, security, and all that sort of stuff, and try and take it away from the real geekiness of IT. And for the last sort of year or so, we've been really focusing on the desired outcomes of the clients and tailoring the IT solution to that. So I fully get where you're coming from. Are there any? You've obviously got a real mix of clients, I guess, and I guess you choose sometimes to work with clients or not. I guess there's a profile of business you want to work with.
There is, and I get asked that question quite regularly, and they say, "Well, who do you work with?" And I'll say, I'll work with anyone if they've got an entrepreneurial spirit behind them. If someone comes to me and they've got a hobby as a photographer, and I say, "Well, where do you want to take the business?" "Oh, I don't really want to take it anywhere. I just want to be a hobby as a photographer." That isn't for me. I can't really do anything extra for them. I can't really kind of take them to a new place. Whereas whether it's a startup or a company that's been around for years, but they've got directors or shareholders that have kind of got plans for the future, and they've got it might be a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, it might be a retirement plan, there's so many things. It might be wanting to pay your school fees for your children, whatever that might be. If they start to talk to me in those kind of words, I think, right, I can work with you. And it doesn't matter if you're turning over 10 grand a year or you're turning over 50 million a year. As it's the principles, owner managed businesses, and what the leaders of those businesses actually do. I've been really lucky this year. We're in the middle of the third one at the moment, but we've already sold 2 businesses of our clients, which means we've lost the clients, unfortunately, because they've been sold on. But the reason I bring that up is in both cases when we took them on, and in both, I think we took it about 5 or 6 years ago, and both of them have sold for a substantial amount of money. And I've been part of that journey, and I've been able to advise them all the way along the line. And to be able to do that gives me a sense of satisfaction, gives us a sense of satisfaction that you can look back on your life. It's not all about making money. It's about actually giving people what they want. And I've got my own personal little motto that is, if you're successful, we're successful. And if you think about it, it's true, because if we work with people that are going to go bust, or work with people that are kind of not are going to fail, the chances are we'll end up with a bad debt, and and that'll be the end of the relationship. Whereas if you prepared to put time in to help them to be successful, that means that we're going to be successful. We'll get bigger fees. We'll get a better relationship, and it works for everybody, really. So that's something that I will try to work towards.
That's brilliant. It's good to hear. What are the challenges your industry are facing, would you say, at the moment?
The challenges are, I would say there are 3 challenges. There's more than 3, but we'll settle on 3 for the purposes of this podcast. The first challenge is the government, in the nicest possible way. They change things all the time, and we are at the cutting edge of legislation changes. Over the last, well, if we had this podcast in February 2019, February 2020, if I'd said the word furlough to you, you'd all be thinking he's off his blocker. What the hell is he talking about? Okay, now it's like such a common word, but we had to learn all that from scratch. There was no guidance. Don't kid me. The government did put a few things out, tend to get it wrong, but they, and we had to learn it ourselves. We had to write our own spreadsheets. We had to get our own ideas in place to be able to do that. That's just one example. And every time a budget comes round, or every time Rishi gets up and talks, there's almost a panic on our faces. What is he going to say next? Because the legislation is changing all the time. So the government is one. The second one is people. People, and particularly, I think we found this in the last 18 months, is that some people have adapted very well to the new working environment and some people haven't. And as an employer that really cares about our employees, and I call them team, and I think that's done not just because it sounds good, but they are very much friends as well as kind of people that we work with. And we've seen some, sadly some of them have lost relatives, some of them have kind of gone through really hard times, and being able to work with them and work through those situations has been very, very challenging. Now that it's been an exceptional 18 months, but you get that all the time. Life goes on, and it's remembering that people have got a life behind their work, or whether it's a client or whether it's an employee, they've got other things that are going on in their mind, and or that are on their mind, and it's a case of us being able to work with them. And we try really hard with flexible working, allowing some to work in the office that want to, others that don't want to. It's fine, and just try to be as flexible as we can. Now, as a relatively small employer, that's easier than perhaps some of the larger employers, if I'm honest, but that's definitely a challenge. And people can go in all kinds of directions. So yeah, I could tell some stories of people, but I won't continue on there. And the third one is the technology. We're in an industry where technology is changing dramatically. So and I apologise for anyone, I'm about to bore now talking about accounting software, but as I'd say even 5 or 6 years ago, the Sage products were ahead of the market, and they were the ones that people were using. We went to most clients, yeah, we're on Sage, la la la, and that has completely transformed in the last 5 years. The majority of clients are now on cloud-based accounting, usually QuickBooks or Xero. There are others around as well, and the whole accounting world has gone into being real time. And that is something that not only real time, but also allowing our clients to do a lot more than they ever used to. So whereas we used to do a lot of bookkeeping for them, they bring in the paper bag and then we'd get them out and we'd put all the receipts together. We don't do that anymore. Well, I say we don't do that. Occasionally you get the odd one, but the majority of them, it's a nice little, if you could log on to our accounting system, we can see what's going on, and then we can do what we need to do with it. So our industry has become more about advice, and it's become more about direction and how to deal with things rather than the actual processing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we still process for some clients, and some people don't want to do that. But it's so much easier now. I could right now just say to you, Jonathan, if you're a business owner sitting there, I say, well, let's both look at this data at the same time. And 5 or 6 years ago, on our big chunky kind of computers, that just wasn't an issue. It wasn't possible. So we've had to react to that. That has often meant to more broadband lines and space. Before we moved to Lichfield, we were in Shenston, and when we moved there, we had to persuade BT to actually put more broadband space into the village, because we just couldn't have operated without it. And I think a lot of people miss that the technology side, and I know I'm talking to a technology person here, but it's fundamental really that you get the right support and you've got the right people behind you, because something goes wrong and the staff, as much as they want to say, right, down tools, we can't do anything now for the next however many hours until it gets fixed again. And that type of thing has become a first world problem, I guess. Certainly not one you would have 20 years ago with your quill pen.
What about security? You're obviously dealing with some fairly sensitive information and people's livelihoods. I guess you've got to, and there must be a good amount of regulation in your industry as well. But you must keep a keen eye on the security side and cybersecurity side at the moment.
Yes, and I mean, again, going back to looking at your systems, full stop, really, and making sure that the right virus stuff is on board. I'm not a technical person when it comes to this, I'll be honest, but it's the security as far as passwords, and which drive me absolutely bonkers. I've got a memory like a sieve, and I can't remember my date of birth half the time. So when I have to have yet another password, it's kind of think, oh god, here we go again. But that completely, it is so easy to fall foul of not having the right infrastructure in place, in as much as that the passwords or other security things to stop the potential violation, it is massive. What I have relied on is the fact there is a good, the security behind the systems is all there. I see every morning various things come up on the screen, say you're protected, etc., which I guess is reassuring. But having said that, I probably take it for granted, which probably isn't good, if I'm honest. Because I don't think you should take things like that for granted. But no, you're more an expert than me on that side.
Yeah, I mean, we do get very passionate about it, but there's more to technology. There's more to security than technology. People are the biggest risk to businesses, and people do daft things. And sometimes you simply can't stop that. So it's a question of training and awareness. But at the same time, you approach cybersecurity as a business continuity.
Yeah, completely.
And you're spot on without your computers for.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, the Matt Hancock thing earlier in the week. I mean, it's kind of how easily people can get in and take photos of you. Also this week, government as well, those papers about that bloody ship that they found in a place in Kent, and that is all human error, and there's nothing that anybody can ever do about that. Well, other than employ the right people, I guess. But yeah, a lot of it, and I'm guessing you'll tell me probably, 90% of crime is now probably happening online. In various holes.
It is the biggest crime in the world now. It's bigger than guns and prostitution and drugs all added together. It's enormous. In terms of the business, I appreciate Time's pushing on here. In terms of your business now, obviously for many organisations, the last 18 months has been a challenge. Some companies have grown, some have founded, some have gone. We've become a more agile and a better business because of it. How do you see your business having adapted and changed over the last year or so?
First of all, we've grown quite dramatically for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier. Our approach, we've found a lot of people have come to us because they've either been let down or not been given advice previously. On top of that, we've got a lot more bigger clients as well, because some of the bigger organizations have dropped audit and we do audit, which sounds really boring, but actually you can make audit interesting and get some benefit from it not just being a cost. So we definitely grown. We're about to employ another person, which is fantastic because we need to. So that's all good. I think because we've moved into a new business in the last 6 months, we've also seen perhaps more change than most people because we've had to adapt to new procedures. We're currently still ongoing, actually, a whole HR exercise where we've effectively got people in the organisation that have come from 4 different organisations. So you look at contracts of employment and things like that, and they're all over the place. So we've got to spend time, and it's important to get your people right. It's sometimes difficult to know, should you put your clients first or your people first? I actually truly believe your people come first, because I think if you've got the right people and they're doing the right things and everybody's happy, that gives the clients the experience that they want, and that makes the whole thing happy. So yeah, as far as that's probably some of the biggest changes that we've had in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, fantastic. And that points quite a lot as well to some strong company values you seem to have put in place as well about staff and happiness. And
yes,
and that's really encouraging to hear. I know you get involved in some other enterprises as well, some other opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons I'm an entrepreneurial accountant is because I have got a few other little things that I get up to. Run a business called Brum Tours in Birmingham, which we do Peaky Blinder walking tours. Sadly, we've not been able to do them for the last 18 months, but it's something completely different to accountancy and is good fun. I look after I'm non-executive of Caravan Park up in Aberystwyth, which again, it gets us out into the countryside occasionally, which is fun. And I'm also a trustee of a charity in Nechells called Free at Last. And I'm the accountant, so I am the treasurer there. So there's some of the bits and pieces. And the other thing is I love it when people come to me with an idea and I will actually say, right, I'll get involved with this. So your Tayla, she did the whole young enterprise thing and got involved with that. And when you find people who are passionate about what they want and what they do, I'm the kind of person that I love to just get involved and help them to succeed. So little things like that, and some are great. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect. We've had a few things we've been involved with over the years that haven't quite worked out, but it's about taking risks and it's about actually enjoying your life. a message I would leave to anybody listening to this at the end of the day is make sure you enjoy what you do. As soon as you stop enjoying what you do, you may as well give up, because why would you waste your life away doing something you don't enjoy? So I clearly love what I do. I enjoy working with people. Yeah, it's fun, as well as obviously a way of getting some money. So yeah, cool.
That's probably a great note to finish on. Actually, I think that's a wonderful thing to say. You know, you work for a vast majority of your life. When I used to be office based, I used to see my colleagues more than I saw my kids, and
yes,
some people would see that as a bonus, but you know, it's a great thing to say. I'll probably finish on that. What is interesting, actually, if anyone is interested in meeting John face to face, I guess we've set up a small networking thing now, haven't we? On Wednesday night, is it the 3rd of the month?
Third Wednesday of the month, open to all Lichfield people, businesses, and people that happen to live in the city who might work outside the city. But yeah, third Wednesday of the month, we just go for. We change the bar or every month, but yeah, just get in touch with one of us and we can put you on that list. It's just sometimes nice just to kind of relax after work and do something. You know, we can just have a beer and just
doesn't have to be work talk, but as you said earlier, people by people. So
completely
great to start meeting.
Good stuff.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for today, John. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good to have this chat, and yeah, hopefully people find this of some interest. That'd be great.
Fingers crossed. Take care. Thank you, John.
Well, cheers. Thanks.